Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I want to speak to you about being grateful. This is Thanksgiving weekend, and something that is coming out of the conflict on either side here are that every pro-Israel rally, there's an American flag. And that's not just to sort of pay homage to the United States, but it's really just about Israel. It's also our way of saying that we are grateful for the great liberties and freedoms that we should never take for granted in this country. And this, unfortunately, is falling on deaf ears on college campus, where too many young people are not being taught to be grateful to these United States of America. They are somehow being taught and corrupted. Their young minds are being corrupted into thinking that this country does nothing good for the world, and that if they had just lived somewhere else, that's the reason if there's this lack of gratitude, because they haven't lived in other places and don't realize the great freedoms that we so take for granted. And this is something we learn from none other than Jacob, the great Yaakov Avinu in this week's Parsha, who expresses simple gratitude. God does something for me. I am going to do something in return and not just take it for granted. Listen to what Yaakov says. He comes out of this great nevuah, out of this great prophecy. And afterwards he says, Vayidor Yaakov neder, that Jacob makes a vow. And he says, Im yeh Elokim imadi, if God remains with me, ushmarani baderech, and he protects me, v'natan li lechem lachol, and he gives me bread to eat, ubeged lilbosh, and clothing to wear, then v'shavti b'shalom beit avi, I will return in peace to my father's home, and v'haya Hashem li lilokim, and God will remain with me. God will remain for me, my God. Right? I will remain a loyal servant to Hashem when I see that he's giving me bread to eat and clothing to wear. And Jacob puts this into practice. Va'even azot, and this stone, he creates a monument. Asher samti matziva yeh beit elokim, v'chol asher titen li, and whatever God gives to me, aser asrenu, I will tithe. I will not simply live in this country and complain that it could be doing this better and it could be doing that better. And the United States is just an oppressive regime that is propping up other oppressive regimes like Israel. But I'm going to have a recognition of the reality that the United States of America has been so great, not only to the Jewish people, but to so many ethnicities and minorities. And for our young people to be growing up and to be thinking that they should be living somewhere else, they have no idea what they're experiencing. I've never met a Holocaust survivor who was never a great American patriot who lived in this country, because they better than anyone else knows the freedoms that we should never take for granted when we live here. This is something to think about on Thanksgiving weekend. It's something to reflect on. As Jacob, our forefather, he didn't just say thanks for the clothing and move on. He said, no, I will remain loyal to you. I will give back to you. That's what Israel does. That's what the Jewish people at these rallies are doing and are saying. We don't just have the Israeli flag. We have the American flag too, because we need to show recognition and to thank the United States of America, not simply for standing behind Israel at this critical hour, which of course we can't take for granted, but of all of the great freedoms and liberties that the United States of America has given to the world. We have to raise a new generation, or at least teach this one, that can never be taken for granted. When we do, we will lose it. Shabbat Shalom.